Oppong-Nkrumah,
swear by the Almighty God
swear by the Almighty God
that the evidence I shall give before this committee
that the evidence I shall give before this committee
touching the matter in issue
shall be the truth,
the whole truth,
and nothing but the truth.
and nothing but the truth.
So help me God. I'm a Christian. I'm married. I have 2 children. I have a background in marketing communications, in law, and in finance. I've worked in times past as a journalist, as a treasury analyst, as a lawyer briefly, and today I work as a member of parliament and a deputy minister of state.
Do you have a background in accounting?
As I mentioned, Chairman, I have a background in marketing communications, finance, and law. And so I would capture...
Is accounting part of finance?
It is part of finance.
So chartered accountant is not part of your achievements. You want to be associated with finance. Is that the case?
No, I'm not a chartered accountant.
President's letter of 24th August 2018 conveying your appointment to Parliament through the Right Honourable Speaker. I see Kojo Oppong-Nkrumah, but I don't see same in the President's letter. Which of it should we associate you with for the record?
Hyphenated.
Why didn't you convey same to the President?
Chairman, I received the letter. I did not have an opportunity to make an input into the letter.
Chairman, when you gave him the opportunity to introduce himself, he has refused to share with this committee and the people of Ghana committees of Parliament he serves on, necessarily by virtue of being member of Parliament. Do you want to do that?
Thank you, Chairman. I am a member of the Standing Committee on Finance and the Select Committee on Constitutional, Legal, and Parliamentary Affairs.
We noticed, Chairman, this morning we're given some revised CV of yours. What have you changed in the new one against the old one that we worked with?
Chairman, thank you. The only introduction is on page 2, employment history, first line, April 2017 to date, Deputy Minister for Information.
Have you been acting in any capacity at the Ministry of Information?
No, Chairman. I have been serving in my old role as Deputy Minister for Information. The acting minister is the Honorable Damboche, who is a Minister for Regional Reorganization.
Honorable Damboche has been your supervising minister.
That is so.
At the Ministry of Information.
That is so.
Has it been communicated to Ghanaians?
Not that I'm aware of.
You are the minister and your other colleague is sitting by you. How did you expect Ghanaians to know that there's somebody, a minister, responsible for your ministry in the absence of the substantive minister?
Chairman, thank you. As is the practice in the executive arm, when a minister is not at post, a deputy cannot act for him, and the president assigns another minister to handle or to exercise the powers of that office. It is mostly an administrative function internally, as I have come to understand it. And so we have not been at pains to announce to the country that the Honorable Damboche is the acting minister.
That's where my problem is. That whole ministry that is responsible for informing us, there's this critical information you have not shared with us. I think that's an error we should not repeat. It's not the only ministry that has other ministers sent to supervise that. The impression is that as if the ministries don't have supervising ministers, but this is critical information that must be shared with Ghanaians, right?
Take a cue, Chairman.
Do you admit that is some lapse on your part that the Ghanaian people are unaware of who their supervising minister is?
I take a cue from the advice that in the future we should do so.
Chairman, if I still have your indulgence, page 2 of your CV, as of January 5th, 2017, what were you related to the first paragraph of your CV?
As at January 5, 2017, I was an MP-elect, hoping to be sworn in.
So related to your CV?
Related to the third paragraph of my CV, which says January 2017 to date. It talks about the month. It doesn't exactly specify the date on which I was sworn in.
Specifics matter for our record. Are you in a position to render and provide that detail for our record?
I am.
What is that detail?
January 7th.
And do we take it that wherever you have references, and you are courageous enough to tell this committee your responsibilities, if we find out that you didn't perform any of those obligations, your background tells me lawyer, not your background. Indeed, it is the case. And therefore, any untruth under oath will make you a potential candidate for perjury. Is that the case?
That is so.
Page 9. Page 3, sorry, page 3. Joy FM, tell us, and in your brief remarks, you decided to be very terse with your role at Joy FM. You are doing scrutiny. Today is our day to scrutinize you as you did. Tell us what your life was at Multimedia and the extent to which today we should hold you accountable for your deeds and words.
I was recruited at age 24 by Multimedia Limited, I think in 2006, as a broadcast journalist initially. And then upon the exit of the late Komla Dumont to the BBC, I was assigned a role as an editor, which corresponded to the host of the Super Morning Show. I was also tasked with setting up the Joy Business brand. The Joy Business brand that you see today is a brand that myself, with the support of some of my colleagues, set up. I was mostly focused on development journalism, interested in economic and development matters, and promoted same on my show. I also spearheaded the Read 100 project, which was a project aimed at not just talking about some of the ills that we saw, but attempting to do something about it, dedicating about 100 hours of radio airtime, which was very expensive, to promoting the culture of reading and proceeding to build a number of libraries across the country to support in the culture of reading.
Chairman, if I still have your indulgence, page 4, we still need some specifics. Leadership position, 2010 to 2013, what period? Managing editor, 2014. Do I just assume it was January to December? And probably it may not be the case because in some instances, you know that I know the exact date you played some of this role. Does Chairman have your permission for you to correct the records?
Yes, Chairman. I would submit the specific dates to update those records as advised.
Do you add that even to conferences attended? When you say 2015, were you in the air January to December 2015 as we see as guest speaker? Was it the whole period?
I will do same also to conferences as well.
As Minister for Information, the Ghanaian people expect accuracy and reliability from you. Are you accurate in this reportage?
It is fair to be required to provide further information, and I'm happy to do so.
And Chairman, since he indicated that he was working at Multimedia, you'll be supervising the media in this country on behalf of government. Chairman, the Senior Deputy Minister is attempting to...
Honorable Minority Leader, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chairman. Chairman, since he would be supervising what is generally referred to as the fourth estate of the realm, and he has his own peculiar and personal experiences at Joy FM, share with us what are the weaknesses of the Ghanaian media relative to Joy FM that you want to see improved?
Chairman, thank you. My answers will not be specific or relative to Joy FM. My answers will be general. The media, as has been rightly mentioned by the Honorable Minority Leader, is the fourth estate of the realm, a very important pillar in our democratic exercise, responsible for giving life to the freedoms of expression in our Constitution. But for the media to thrive, a number of things must happen, not just in the textbooks as free, but because media is mostly operated as private business, you would also expect that the media owners, or those who own these media houses, do significant and necessary investments in them, not just in technical equipment, but also in the capacities of their people. There are a lot of young people excited to practice in the media, but like I benefited from in my day, they need a lot of on-the-job capacity building as the market keeps changing every now and then. We also need to pay some more attention to how we remunerate media actors. Journalists are, from my experience, some of the poorly paid persons in this country, and it is important for media owners to step it up a little bit and ensure that my colleague journalists are well compensated in their line of work. It will help us to retain a lot of them. It will help us to deepen their capacity as the years go by. In terms of building capacity, the state itself can also augment what is being done to build the capacity of media practitioners. And I look forward to the Ministry of Information working with the National Media Commission and other agencies, even in that space, to build capacity.
Chairman, may I request from the nominee, do you hold the citizenship of any other country, and have you ever applied for the citizenship of any country?
Chairman, I am a citizen only of the Republic of Ghana. It excites me much. I do not intend to take up any other citizenship.
Chairman, may I bring him back to his CV again? Page 3. Is your list exhaustive, or you just provided for emphasis those you've interviewed? I've seen key interviews and high level. Are these the only key and high level you had?
No, I just mentioned them as key. It's not exhaustive, but these are just a few that I chose to highlight.
Take Dr. Kofi Annan and share with us, as you eulogize him, what significant thing you recall as you engage him as Chief Executive of the UN and a proud Ghanaian.
Thankfully, at the time he had done his tenure, I engaged with him at the World Economic Forum on Africa in Johannesburg, South Africa. And it was at the time that he was working with the group of Africans known as the Elders to engage in exercises to help deepen democracy on parts of the African continent, and also to assist governments, even with policy advice on going to specific areas, including agriculture. What I found exciting about him then and even now was his one, humility, two, the fact that he hadn't changed all over these years when he had even worked at the highest levels, and three, the fact that even in spite of where he had got into, he was still committed to giving back to Africa his time and his intellect. I was inspired by it, and I'm sure a few lessons I've picked from it will also guide me in my work.
Well, to your CV, page 4, you indicate that you did your national service as a treasury analyst at no other place than British America Tobacco. Is that right?
That is so, Chairman.
So you were helping in selling cigarettes?
That will be so, Chairman.
Well, we'll come to that, but I just wanted to be sure about that. You, from July 2006, on page 3, to December 2013, you indicate that you were the editor-host of Joy FM, Multimedia Group Limited. But if you go to page 2, you also indicate January 2010 to December 2012. Why the distinction? The assumption is that you would have indicated that you ended December 2013, but here you also come to December 2012.
Yes, Chairman. Chairman, from July 2006 all the way to December 2013, I had a substantive job as editor and host of Joy FM at the group. But from January 2010 to December 2012, I was assigned an additional, very separate role, which was to establish the Joy Business Unit and to roll out its pillars. It's for me a very significant part of my career at Multimedia, and so I extended that overlap separately.
Okay. There's a small correction on page 3. President Kufuor, the name is not spelled well. I'm sure those printed for you overlooked that. So that correction needs to be made. And then, so from your CV, straight from school, that is after national service, you went to Joy FM, you were recruited. Do you have any background as a journalist?
Chairman, no, I did not train as a journalist. I initially entered Joy FM as an intern, and by the time I was completing my university education, Joy FM offered me an opportunity to work as a part-time worker there, even while I was doing my national service at British American Tobacco as a treasury analyst. And it was subsequent to that that I now came over to Joy FM to commence work as a full-time staff from July 2006.
The last one, just an innocuous one. First page, September, that's basic education. St. Benedict, where?
Dansoman in Accra.
So it has to be indicated. That'll be all for now, Chairman. I'm done for CVs.
Let me give Honorable Helu the opportunity, then I'll come to you later.
Thank you, Chair. Congratulations, nominee. Still on your role at Joy FM, you indicated on page 3 that you aligned JFM's Super Money show to focus on economic and finance subjects from its previous social and political focus. What was the rationale for that? And what were the main achievements for this shift in paradigm?
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. So at the time that I assumed the role, I was taking over the shoes of a very big man, literally and figuratively, the late Komla Dumo, who had built a very strong show that commanded huge audience share in our republic. And the show focused a lot on political matters and then also social issues of the day. They were not exactly my strengths at the time. And so what we sought to do was to realign the show with areas that were also of strength to me, and areas that we also believed that gradually the market was shifting to focus more attention on. You would recall that around that time, after about the first tenor of a change in power under the 1992 Constitution, and the partisan politics, in my opinion, was beginning to tone down as conversations were getting more onto the factual side. The market was demanding more of that kind of discussion and analysis, and it also played to my strength. And that's why we realigned the program to focus in that space. I think it served us well because we succeeded in winning back some very high audience shares and dominating the English market for the period during which I was there.
Honorable Yele Chile.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On page 2, you have October 2016 to January 2017. You just state that lawyer Kulendi Etefua and Amponsa at law. Are you saying that's the name of the chambers that you were affiliated to?
That is so, Chairman.
You worked there as a lawyer.
That is so.
Where did you do your pupillage after the law school?
At that same place.
Where did you do your national service post-degree?
At British American Tobacco.
Which period? What date did you start and what was the terminal date?
2005 September to 2006 July.
Did you do just one national service or the mandatory two after?
I did one national service.
Okay, thank you.
Are you done? Honorable
Chairman, just a little on the CV again. May I take you to page 5 of your CV? 2012. I'm sure everybody will want to understand. Moderated Ghana's presidential and vice presidential debate. Is it relative to the presidential and parliamentary elections of 2012?
Yes, it is.
You think that the detail you've provided there is enough?
What is missing?
I think so, Chairman.
Or if you believe so, say so. And you participated in the World Economic Forum as a reporter or journalist?
As a reporter.
I see journalist.
I use the two interchangeably.
Are they interchangeable?
In my opinion, yes, Chairman.
One entitles you the other. Where do you belong?
As I mentioned, Chairman, in my opinion, the two can be used interchangeably.
Are you a reporter or a journalist?
I worked at the time as a reporter and a journalist.
Are you a trained journalist?
I'm not.
But you just told us that you are not a trained journalist, so I'm tying you to your word. Minister for Information, are you a reporter or a journalist?
I worked at the time as a reporter and a journalist, but I am not a trained journalist.
Are you a journalist?
You have asked him that question, he has answered. If you want another question, please go on. But yes, he has stated clearly that he's not a trained journalist. That should be sufficient.
And then, Chairman, just a little one. You were guest speaker on what? 2008 centenary celebration, Missouri School of Journalism. What did you speak on?
Journalism in the new age and using digital media to build communities of influence.
You don't think that as potential Minister for Information, you owe us that detail? If I just say guest speaker, you must have been a guest speaker dedicated to a certain subject. You want to give that information?
So I take a cue and I amend accordingly.
When you were providing the telephone contact, Kulendi, respected lawyer, no doubt, Atefa and Aponsa, who do you want us to call? You provided just one telephone number.
Chairman, it is the official phone number of the firm. So my hope is that we'll call the firm and the call may be directed to any of the partners.
If you're looking at the CV, the name he has provided is Juni Kulendi Esquire. The rest is address and the telephone number. So the referee he has nominated is Juni Kulendi. And I think we should have that so that there's no confusion. The Amponsa and others is a firm name. Juni Kulendi Esquire, managing partner. Kulendi, Atefa, and Amponsa at law.
Just a little clarification on the CV. I see, for example, on page 4 that you were project coordinator students in free enterprise. And you can be commended also for the role in supporting the establishment of the Joy business that is currently doing well on Joy. I've seen other profiles of you elsewhere, which I can't say if they are authored by you, but you are referred to variously as an entrepreneur. So going through the CV, I was just hoping to see if you have established or been a director of any business, any company, but I see none. Is it that you haven't thought of establishing a company before? You haven't owned one? You are not a director of any company, even though variously you are referred to as an entrepreneur, and you played this role in school as project coordinator students in free enterprise.
Chairman, I'm grateful. In school, I did a bit of entrepreneurship, as you would see the CV speak about, but also post-school and subsequent to my leaving Joy FM, I briefly was involved in private business. I set up an advisory firm, WBC, briefly for a year before I went to law school.
Why is that missing in the CV? Is it there? Is it in page 2?
Page 2, you will notice January 24.
Managing Director, West Bromston. Thank you. I missed that.
Yes, Honorable Kojo Oppong-Nkrumah.
Most grateful, Mr. Chairman, and congratulations, my brother Kojo Oppong-Nkrumah. Just take you through briefly page 1 of your CV, September 2001 to May 2005, Bachelor of Commerce, Accounting major. Is it Cape Coast University, or it should be University of Cape Coast? What's the proper nomenclature?
University of Cape Coast.
So I'm sure we'll have your permission to correct that. And there's a slight overlap I see here, just for clarification. LLB 2011 to 2014, and Executive Master's Business Administration Marketing. We will amend that. But the overlap is to May 2012, and then the LLB began September 2011. Is that correct, or there's a mistake here?
I do not think there's a mistake there, Chairman.
Okay, so you were doing both at the same time?
No, I think
at some point.
Yes, I think one was in May, and then right after that I enrolled for the other.
No, it's the other way around. May 2012, and then September 2011. Except if the LLB should be September 2012. Is that what you wanted to communicate? Now, what we have here is September 2011 to June 2014.
It will be 2012.
So it should be 2012?
Yes, it will be 2012.
Okay, all right. September 2012. Okay, so we'll amend it accordingly. Mr. Chairman, page 3 of the CV provided a strong partnership between economic and finance think tanks, such as IEA, SEPA, Imani. Is it your view that Imani is an economic and finance think tank?
Imani has advised or has advertised itself as so.
Though they work on all matters, including Kelni GVG, which is an ICT-related matter. Well, I'll let that pass. But if we have your permission to correct under key interviews and high-level interactions, President J.A. Kufuor, that has been done. Okay, thank you very much. And the associate at Bentil Consulting, Accra, are we to understand that you kept that job whilst you were still at Multimedia?
Yes, I was only an associate, so depending on the kind of jobs that they had, some of which I've stated here, they would invite me in to assist.
Looking at the responsibilities, you didn't see any ethical challenges with what you were doing at Joy?
Not at all.
I found it quite curious.
Not at all. I also believe in full disclosure, so you would find from my employers at the time that, and not just for these, if any third party sought to engage me on any matter which I thought could raise any concerns, I would clear same with my employers at the time before I engage in it.
Okay. Finally, can you please let me understand what ENACTUS stands for? SAIF, I know, is Students in Free Enterprise, yeah. But ENACTUS, I do not know.
ENACTUS is a new brand name that SAIF has been given after the rebranding exercise. It's the brand name that we operate under currently, and it's an organization, as you have alluded to being aware, is focused on building young people, not just to study the theory of doing business in school, but also to have an opportunity for hands-on practice, even while they are in school, before they graduate.
Chairman, if I have your indulgence once again, come back to page 2. Now, Chairman, as I understand, Minister for Information, to say, or Chairman for the President, I hope, Chairman, I got that right. You will be the spokesperson for the President. Read this and see whether that is apt. Building 5 libraries nationwide. Can 5 libraries be built nationwide?
Chairman, I'm sure the intendment of the communication is to build 5 libraries, of course, in different parts of the country. That's the intendment of the communication. If need be, we will re-script it to better communicate.
Chairman, the nominee, as he's speaking to us, is accounting to the Ghanaian people through you and your committee. Thanks to the Ghanaian media, and in particular for our purposes, GTV and GBC. And in our quest for an open parliament to deepen the accessibility of parliament and its work to the Ghanaian public, what plans do you have for GBC and GTV as Minister for Information?
Chairman, thank you. GTV and GBC, over the years, I think have had a battle in the competitive space as new private media has come on board. There is the need to reinvest in GBC and GTV, both in terms of equipment and people and practices as well even. But there's also the need to take a critical look at their mandate, whether or not we want them to be public service broadcasters and to focus on public service broadcasting, do it and do it well, or we want them to play in the commercial competitive space, in which case we have to do some more investments and redefining of their scope so that they can do that. Thankfully, and I'm happy to share this information with your committee, Chairman, the President has set up a committee to advise on the restructuring of GBC. It was one of the last acts that my former boss supervised before his exit. I'm hopeful that if I find pleasure in your eyes and I assume the role, I will receive the report of the committee and the direction that the President wants us to go on it and implement same.
Very well. Honourable members, the floor is open for other questions. Yes, Honourable Member for, Honourable Minister for Works and Housing, yes.
Yes, I think you have a very good sense of the media landscape, and you are acutely aware of the fact that the freedom that the press, or if you like, the media is enjoying is so serious to the extent that by just the use of a radio, an individual's reputation can be torn into pieces. And the media house that is responsible for this kind of situation, when it is sued, you find out that they cannot even meet the extent of the damages awarded. In the face of Article 162(4) of the Constitution, which is clear that the media, in terms of the licensing regime, should not be affected, do you think it's about time that media houses should have insurance bonds entered into, so that in the event of somebody being defamed beyond measure, the one who's been given the victory in court can fall on the insurance bond? Or you think it should be free for all, we should leave the media houses to do as they like, and when they are sued, and damages are awarded, the victory becomes a shell.
Chairman, thank you. I'm a strong believer in Article 1621, freedom and independence of the media, guaranteed by the 1992 Constitution. To have that given effect to the threshold for entry, in my opinion, respectively, ought not to be put so high. We should allow citizens and media organizations the room to practice in this space and the room to even make some mistakes in this space. The courts, as you mentioned, are there and have quite some stringent, may I say, laws that can be applied. The defamation procedures, as you talked about, exist. There's even laws on publishing false news with the intent to create fear and panic. In other jurisdictions like nation, be the information on government policies or programs or government positions on matters, a lot more needs to be done to get government position to percolate, not just to the ground, but indeed to all stakeholders, sometimes even within government itself, with other stakeholders on the ground, even internationally. But Chairman, there's also a history to it. I believe that is for this reason why our first president set up the Ministry for Information. The Ministry for Information is the ministry responsible for this function. Over the years, as our national history itself has been checkered with its own ups and downs, the ministry or that arm of government, that channel responsible for defining all of these matters, has also gone through its own ups and downs. And I'll cite the example of the arm of the ministry responsible for this matter that you talk about, the Information Service Department. Some of my colleague MPs here have worked at the Ministry of Information and are very familiar with this. The Information Service Department at a time is under the Ministry of Information. At a point in time, they are semi-autonomous because there's no ministry taking charge of them. At a point in time, they are left to another ministry. The whole structure and the financing of it has been undulating over the years. When my former boss was assigned the responsibility of putting the ministry back together, we developed a strategic plan, which includes, among other things, getting some legal structure around particularly the Information Service Department, so that we can always resource it properly, program it properly, and then they can get information to percolate to the ground. The other reason for which this happens also, and I've worked in media, the truth is that media thrives on what is sensational or what is exciting to sell. And there's the view that, government announcements on, state matters may always not be exciting. And so if you do the total study of the, let's say, the news consumption pattern for a day, you would most likely find a wider spread of negative or enticing or shocking news than you would find positive news or even news about what the government of Ghana is doing, regardless of which party is in power. It is my hope and my expectation, my intention, that we can, as part of this strategic plan, get some more resourcing, also to restructure some of the government-related channels and media, so that they can also assist us by providing this information to those who may not necessarily be interested in, hearing some titillating stories, but may also want to be interested in hearing what the government of Ghana, regardless of who is in power, is doing. It's important for our democracy.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Kojo, congratulations.
Thank you, Senior.
Yeah, my first question is, there are spokespersons in all the ministries. When, or if approved, you will be mainly responsible for communicating about government programs and policies. What are you going to do to collaborate effectively with those spokespersons from the ministries so that you will not be giving conflicting information to the general public?
Thank you, Chairman. Chairman, the question posed by Honorable Ahin is one that excites me a lot, because it goes to the heart of whether or not the Ministry of Information can be successful in proactively and in a credible manner churning out information on what the government of Ghana is doing throughout its various ministries, departments, and agencies. The Information Service Department, as I mentioned, is the department that by convention, not by law, by convention, has been tasked with appointing PROs to the various ministries, departments, and agencies. Part of the challenge is that because there's no real legal mandate that spells out how this must be done, you go to some ministries, and in my days as a journalist, and even until recently, the role or the responsibilities assigned to PROs now in actual fact differ from ministry to ministry. You will go to some ministries where you will find that the PRO is not at the management meeting table. He or she has no idea the kind of policy and program decisions that are being made there, let alone now develop his program where he says, this is how I feed back to the information minister so that he can announce it, or this is how I also deal with media queries as they come in. It's been one of the major problems, and part of the strategic plan, as I mentioned, aims at helping to get hopefully a certain legal structure that mandates the ISD to be the one to put there. Because you also have instances where, political actors over the period may come in and say, I prefer this person as my communications specialist or my communications director or my whatever, which you can't do in the normal public services or the civil service. It's important we sort that one out. Once we sort that one out, then there's clarity on where that PRO is, whether or not he sits at management meeting, therefore how much information he can get. Then I, the Minister of Information, hopefully, can now demand of them to bring me weekly reports, which I can then announce to the country, which doesn't conflict with what maybe that specific ministry is saying or putting out. And I think that it is a major step we have to take. Thankfully, in conformance to our strategic plans, as I mentioned, in the second or third week of November, we have a conclave of all the PROs where parts of this idea I'm mentioning to you will be rolled out, and we hope to see some work happen there.